It's tough to do a short pitch when you've just finished a film, but it's a group of friends at that magical moment right after school where they go out in the world and try to make their dream come true. In this case, it's a bistro cafe in New Orleans. They come upon a pendulum board, which is something I've studied off and on over the years. I've never seen in film before, and they open a dark world. They enter a dark world, and we go from there. I was inspired by Kevin's work, and I believe we honored the original. So he was very enthusiastic and supports us, and I wanted to take his work and take it to the next level, take it to the moon. We exploded his concepts, and we're bringing something entirely new to the audience. We did. We shot primarily here in Montreal with great crews and incredible sets, and because the film also has a parallel storyline in the 1700s, we had amazing sets here in Old Montreal, and we shot the streets of New Orleans. And part of the illusion, it's all illusion. Every film is an illusion. Part of our illusion is making one New Orleans out of the real streets of New Orleans and our sets in Montreal. To me, there's a deep mythology of Wicca and witches familiar. I've never seen Pendulum Board, what I consider to be an authentic witch with a real backstory that's right out of history, and the Pendulum Board, which is a divination tool that was outlawed by the Pope in the 1700s. The reason there are Ouija boards is because you'd get burned at the stake in that era if you had a pendulum board. So it's a spell casting and spirit divination tool, and very fun and visual to shoot.
So do you believe in witchboard's power or something like that?
I think we have to be cautious with all these things, because I believe there is such a thing as supernatural evil, but I also believe in supernatural good. So we can't have the dark without the light. We show a bit of both in the film, but I'm not encouraging white witches, and Wicca can be wonderful, but also can be a gateway drug to darker paths. So to be quite honest, I'm cautionary about magic, because magic is really just human intention with the vibration of our spirit. So there is such a thing. We have magic within us. What is your intention? That's the question. I started on a molecular level with claymation. I was fascinated with claymation. I had an 8mm camera. I did not have the proper equipment, but when I was a little kid, I just started playing with cameras and I never stopped. Well, honestly, it wasn't even a horror film. There's a Truffaut movie called Day for Night, and it's about the joy of filmmaking. It's about a joy of a French crew, an independent French crew running around on their own, and I realized it was the same thing I loved about the camaraderie I learned in theater in Chicago. And I decided at that point in my life, I really wanted to make movies, even though I didn't know how I would get there at the time. So Day for Night and probably Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, those two films.
Thank you very much, Chuck.
I play Emily. She is Christian's fiance, and his partner is sort of setting up this restaurant in New Orleans, beautiful restaurant. She's also sort of the reason things sort of start to unfold in our story. She discovers this gorgeous, beautiful witchboard, which happens to unlock a whole lot of nightmares. You're welcome. That's Emily in a nutshell. You know, it was interesting. Emily, she was such a fun character to play. She's so sweet, but she's a tough cookie. She's a recovering addict, so there's kind of some levels we got to play there. There's also like a bit of vulnerability that she goes throughout the story, which I think ultimately makes her very susceptible to a darker entity, or whatever you want to call it, that sort of takes place in the film. But you know, we had such a great crew on set that a really strong thing in our film, I think, is our chemistry between all the characters, and everyone sort of has a great time. They've been friends for years, and we had such a great cast that it was just really easy to step on set and sort of just step into that friendship role. Like, everything was really easy, and Chuck, our fearless leader, he led us so well. Like, there wasn't really a day where we questioned what we were doing, and sort of just like an easy time, like, all together. When you get the chance, you should see it. It's really fun. It's like a fun adventure horror. It's just a good time. It's very reminiscent of like a lot of films from the early 2000s, which are some of my favorites because I grew up on all of them. And I think that's, you know, Chuck. That's also during his prime, and he was so great in it. Honestly, I feel like our biggest challenge was one of my favorite things, which was we used so many practical effects because Chuck Russell, you know, that's his special. He's so good with all of these practicalities, which he's done throughout his entire career. But they weren't easy. They were hard. You know, it was hard to get the perfect shot. But I think that's also what makes our film stick out and makes it so different, is because we were able to do a lot of the sequences with those practical effects. So challenge, but also like one of my favorite things about the movie. I do like horror, yeah. I know. I grew up with it, and it's my favorite genre because there's not really any rules, you know? Like, we can just like, you can kind of make up what you want. It can be as big as you want, ridiculous as you want. I think that's why I like it, because like the world is your oyster. You can kind of just keep playing. So I like the horror world. It's my favorite thing in the world. Like ever since I was a little kid, I remember going to the theater for the first time, and it was my dream to tell stories, and I write, I act, and like I'll never stop telling stories. And whoever else wants to start telling stories too, you should never stop, because it's the best thing in the world.